You don't have the luxury of waiting this one out. Tomorrow, the Leo new moon arrives, and it's not here to inspire you, it's here to expose you. This moon doesn't whisper. It strips everything down to what's real, cutting through the noise you've been hiding behind. The spotlight isn't optional anymore, and whether you're ready or not, you're standing in it. The lines you've been walking start to blur. The roles you've been playing stop making sense. Even your own reflection seems to be waiting for a better answer. This isn't confusion. It's the Leo new moon reshaping the game and putting you on notice. By the time it's done, the version of you hiding behind excuses won't be here anymore. This new moon on July 25th isn't just a phase, it's a full reset button. And the timing couldn't be more on point. Think of it like the universe handing you the ultimate let's get real moment. No more distractions, no more second guessing. This energy isn't loud or chaotic, it's clean, crisp, and honest. It cuts through all the noise and shows you exactly what needs to shift. Mentally, it's like your mind finally gets a deep refresh, more focus, less overthinking. Emotionally, it's a quiet confidence rising, like you're done shrinking to fit in places that never saw your value. And spiritually, this is your green light, a nudge to move in a direction that actually feels like you. You don't have to force it, you don't have to chase it. This new moon isn't asking you to be more, it's showing you who you already are. Some shifts don't ask for attention. They move like a quiet upgrade, the kind you don't even realize you needed until everything starts lining up. That's what's building now. The new moon landing on July 25, 2025, carries the kind of pull that gets under the surface and roots out what's been dragging for far too long. It's like the volume turns down on everything that's been loud and exhausting, and what's left is real, raw clarity. Underneath it all, this new moon is sitting in Leo, a bold sign with unapologetic energy. But don't confuse boldness with noise. Leo's fire here isn't about putting on a show. It's about showing up for yourself in ways you've avoided. Leo asks, are you living in a way that actually reflects you? Not the version people expect, not the one you perform to keep things easy. The real you without the filters. That's what this lunation is stirring. Now, let's zoom in deeper. The number 25 carries a quiet kind of power in numerology. It's tied to change, adaptability, and personal freedom. When it shows up in a new moon, it's not yelling for transformation, it's easing you into it. Layer that with 2025's universal number 9, 2 Paul 02 Paul 5, and you've got this beautiful moment where endings and beginnings aren't in conflict. They're collaborating. The universe is basically saying, clear the old, but only if you're ready to go all in on the new. It's no coincidence this moment is showing up mid-summer. That's peak growth season, not just for nature, but for your own. And if you've been moving through your days wondering what's next, this moon opens space where answers feel less like guesses and more like inner knowing, finally landing, not through logic but through alignment. Astrologically, what's even more interesting is that this moon rises during a Mercury retrograde and Sirius gateway overlap, a rare double influence that's all about internal upgrade. Mercury retrograde isn't the villain people think it is, it's the cleanup crew. It highlights where we've been out of sync, whether with our own thoughts or the people around us, and gives us the chance to recalibrate. The Sirius gateway, on the other hand, amplifies personal truth. Think of it like a spotlight that cuts through the extra and shows you what's authentic. Together, these energies strip away distractions and help you zero in on what actually matters. Not what you're supposed to chase, but what you're meant to create. And that's not something you overthink, it's something you step into. So what does all this mean for you practically? You might find yourself pulling back from noise, choosing calm over chaos, depth over performance. You may crave more time alone, not to isolate, but to realign. Things that used to bother you might suddenly lose their grip. People who once had power over your emotions may feel distant, like they don't hold the same weight anymore. That's not detachment, that's growth. The July 25th new moon doesn't ask for dramatic moves, it asks for real ones. Even the smallest decision made in alignment with who you are now, not who you were 6 months ago, has the power to shift your entire trajectory. And that's where the magic is. Not in chasing transformation, but in recognizing you're already standing in it. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything. All this cosmic setup is doing is opening a window. Whether you walk through it is entirely up to you. But one thing's clear, nothing about this moment is random. And once it clicks, you'll wonder how you ever lived any other way. The world might still be spinning. The calendar may say it's just another date, but inside you already know this isn't ordinary. July 25th is carrying more than a moon. It's holding a turning point, the kind you didn't ask for, but maybe secretly hoped would show up when you were finally ready. You don't need the stars to confirm it. You already know something's shifting quietly, naturally, without needing to explain itself. Right here, you're not trying to fix anything. You're simply allowing space for what already wants to unfold. Sit how you want, eyes open or closed. It doesn't matter. This space is yours. Every word from here forward is meant to bring you back to the version of yourself you don't have to perform for. The one who knows without forcing what comes next. Let your awareness land in this moment, not chasing what just happened, not reaching for what's next. You're here, and here is more than enough. You don't have to name every thought passing through your mind. You don't need to sort them, solve them, or silence them. Let them float by like scenes in the background, while your focus settles on something deeper, something steadier. Imagine you've been carrying way too much, and suddenly someone else picks up the weight. You don't even realize how much lighter everything becomes. That's the vibe. Now you're not chasing peace, you're choosing it. And when you choose peace, the noise loses its power. Now bring your attention to the quiet underneath everything else. It might sound like nothing, but that quiet is where clarity begins. That quiet is where you reconnect with the part of yourself that doesn't second guess, the part that isn't shaken by the noise, the numbers, the deadlines. That part of you never left. It just got buried under everything that demanded your attention first. Shift into a slower pace now. Not lazy, not checked out, just grounded. Think of how it feels to finally be around someone who really gets you. No performance, no pretense. That's the level of honesty you're stepping into with yourself right now. That version of you, the one you don't have to filter, is the one we're calling forward. You've made it through so much, not because you rushed or pushed, but because you kept showing up, even when it didn't make sense, even when no one saw the effort. That version of you deserves some credit, not because they were perfect, but because they didn't quit. Take in the idea that maybe, just maybe, you're not behind, you're not late, you're not broken. Maybe you're right on time for a new chapter that actually fits you. A chapter where you don't have to shrink to be accepted. A chapter where your quiet wisdom finally gets to lead. Think about what you've outgrown, not with judgment, just honesty. The places you used to pour your energy that now leave you empty. The habits that kept you in circles. The stories about who you were that no longer feel accurate. You're not carrying that forward. You don't have to drag old versions of yourself into this new space. Growth doesn't need your apology. Now let's lock in something real. Instead of affirmations that sound good but don't land, speak the kind that remind you of your own power. Don't let it land like a decision. I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here to align. You're not repeating words. You're stepping into them. Each one opens a door. Each one invites a future version of you to take up more space. Without apology, without disguise. You don't have to hustle for what's already yours. If it's meant to move, it will. If it's meant to stay, it will. What's meant to find you doesn't need to be chased. It only needs you to stay open long enough to recognize it when it arrives. Now, shift into gratitude, but not the surface kind, not the forced list of things you should appreciate. Tap into the kind that surprises you, the kind that makes you pause. Gratitude for the conversations that helped you see your worth, for the endings that led to better beginnings, for the people who didn't understand you because they helped you understand yourself better. And maybe most of all, for the moments when everything felt uncertain, but you kept going anyway, not because you were sure, but because something deep inside told you, keep moving. It's not the end yet. The new moon isn't a deadline, it's a green light. You're not here to impress the universe, you're here to collaborate with it, to show up for the nudges, the signs, the ideas that won't leave you alone. It's okay if you don't have a 5-year plan. It's okay if you're still figuring it out. That's not failure, that's evolution. Growth doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet decision that changes everything, like deciding to stop settling, like choosing peace over proving, like realizing you're allowed to take up space, even if nobody claps. Let the silence linger. Don't rush to fill it. This isn't about quick fixes. This is about anchoring into something that actually lasts. Real alignment isn't something you achieve once. It's something you return to again and again, until it feels like home. You're not here to chase someone else's version of success. You're not here to shrink just to be liked. You're not here to blend in. You're here to glow in your own way, even if it's different, even if it's quiet, even if no one claps at first. Now take this moment and make it yours, not because the stars say so, but because deep down, something inside you already knew. It's time. The background noise of the world fades when clarity moves in. No chasing, no proving, just truth, steady and unapologetic. There's a version of life that fits you better, not smaller, not diluted, just real. That version doesn't need dramatic changes overnight. It only asks for one honest step at a time. Think of a window cracked open, not wide, not obvious, but just enough to let in something new. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped holding the door shut out of habit. That's what this shift is inviting. Not a leap, but a recalibration, a fine-tuning, the kind you notice only when the volume of distraction turns down. Now move your awareness toward what hasn't been getting your full attention, not because you ignored it, but because you were handling too much. Maybe it's that idea that's been quietly showing up in moments of stillness, the relationship that's been evolving without needing a title, the part of yourself that always knew this wasn't your final draft. This isn't about fixing anything, it's about making room for what fits better. Let these thoughts land like quiet truths. You're not memorizing, you're recognizing. This is the moment where old noise loses relevance, where expectations that never felt right start to loosen their grip, not through drama but through clarity. Sometimes growth shows up like a new standard, a line you quietly draw, not to reject but to protect, a realization that being misunderstood isn't failure, it's freedom. You're not waiting for everyone to get it, you're just deciding to move forward with or without applause. When you stop bending to fit places that don't reflect your values, everything shifts. It doesn't mean walking away from everything. Sometimes it means showing up differently, more honest, more present, less filtered. The right people will feel the shift, the rest will fall away. Not in anger, but in natural disconnection. Now take that energy and ground it. Picture your next move, not through fear or doubt, but through quiet power. The kind that says, this matters to me. That's enough. Maybe it's choosing rest without guilt, speaking up without rehearsing, saying no without over-explaining, following an idea even if no one claps yet. You don't need to build momentum from scratch. It's been building behind the scenes. Every tiny shift you've made has led here, even the ones no one saw, especially those. Now, lock in a few more truths. Not as affirmations, but as agreements with yourself. I show up as who I am, not who they expect. Let your body stay still, but let your energy shift. You're not waiting for permission. You're not asking for signs that keep stalling the move. You're in motion, whether anyone sees it or not. Gratitude sharpens when you stop chasing perfect. There's beauty in what stayed, strength in what broke and still taught you something. Power in the quiet decisions, the ones no one witnessed but changed everything. July 25th isn't here to test you. It's here to reflect you, where you've grown, where you've softened, where you've held firm. It's not a challenge, it's a mirror. You decide how deep you want to look. There's no pressure to become some perfected version of yourself overnight. The world doesn't need more curated images, it needs more real ones. People choosing to move with kindness, with integrity, with intention, even when it's quiet. Especially when it's quiet, think of this as your recalibration point. Not a break from life, but a sharper focus within it. You're not running away. You're tuning in. You're not escaping. You're realigning. Let the stillness hold you a little longer. Not because you're stuck, but because this is where clarity sharpens. And when the world rushes again, you won't be pulled in the same way. You'll move differently, choose differently, carry yourself with the ease of someone who no longer needs to chase what's not meant to stay. You've done more than enough. Now it's time to be more than enough, quietly, completely, without the performance, without the pressure. When this moment ends, nothing flashy will change, but everything subtle will. You'll speak a little clearer, love a little stronger, move a little freer, not because the world slowed down, but because you did. You've been moving through this season, keeping up with the noise, handling what needed to be done, adjusting, managing, fixing, and somewhere in between, you might have forgotten that your life isn't something to constantly solve. It's not a checklist, not a race, not a timeline to compete with. It's an expression. It's a rhythm that was never meant to copy anyone else's beat. July 25th isn't arriving with loud warnings or demands. It doesn't need to. What it brings is undeniable, in a different way. You're being shown something that only becomes visible when you stop searching for external signs and begin to actually see yourself, not the version shaped by approval, expectation, or past decisions, but the version that's been quietly watching from the sideline, waiting for you to take the lead again. You don't need another reminder that time is short. You already know how fast everything moves. What's rare is the clarity that hits when you finally stop spinning and ask the right question. Not what do I want, but what have I been avoiding? Here's the truth. What you've been waiting for isn't waiting on the world to change. It's waiting on you to shift the weight off your shoulders and decide that your energy is better spent building something honest than maintaining something expired. This isn't about fixing your mindset, healing old wounds, or polishing your confidence. It's about letting go of the idea that you need to earn what's always been yours: respect, peace, fulfillment. You weren't built to settle into survival mode and call that normal. You were made for more ease, for cleaner yeses, for boundaries that aren't explained, they're simply known. So many people think clarity arrives through logic, that if they overthink enough, they'll unlock something important. But the biggest realizations don't come from running in mental circles. They land in moments like this, when the noise finally quiets down and the truth rises in a way that can't be ignored. What you're being offered on July 25th is something, not a flash of inspiration that disappears in a day, but a turning point, one that doesn't require permission. It requires courage, and not the loud kind, the kind that says, I'm ready to live in alignment with who I actually am, even if it means leaving behind things that once felt safe. That realization that living honestly might require a few temporary losses is the very thing that leads to long-term freedom. Not everything you once committed to deserves to come with you. Some roles, some habits, some people, they made sense at one point, but that doesn't mean they still do. You get to update your life without explaining why. You get to evolve without defending every step. You're not obligated to stay in environments that no longer match your growth. The truth is, Your path can't stay locked inside a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. And that's the deeper point. You've outgrown more than you realize. You've upgraded internally in ways that the external world hasn't caught up with yet. That tension you've been experiencing, that mismatch between who you are and what surrounds you, isn't a flaw, it's confirmation. That's why July 25th carries weight. It's not about the calendar. It's about the moment when your inner reality becomes impossible to ignore, when the version of you you've been holding back finally steps forward, not with noise but with certainty. This isn't a temporary push of motivation. This is you arriving, owning the path you've delayed, making the pivot you've been considering for far too long. You know, the one, the thing you keep coming back to, the version of life you keep visualizing but haven't fully claimed. You're not here to talk yourself out of your own growth anymore. You're not here to shrink into old roles for the comfort of others. The cost is too high. The discomfort of staying stuck is louder than the risk of changing. And once you know that, you can't unknow it. You might not have all the steps mapped out, but you don't need a blueprint when your decision is rooted in truth. You don't need outside validation when your energy shifts from performing to aligning. You don't need everyone to understand. You just need to trust that staying true to yourself is worth more than anything you could lose along the way. Every once in a while, something inside you speaks louder than the noise around you, not through a sign in the sky or a sudden breakthrough, but in a quiet, grounded way that says, "This is who I really am now." The new moon in Leo on July 25th isn't about ego, it's about ownership. It's the kind of Leo energy that walks into a room without needing to perform. And here's the plot twist. The parts of your life that once drained you the most were never the problem. The real issue was how long you convinced yourself to adapt, adjust, stay small, hold back, play it safe. But not anymore. That belief, you can walk away from it now. You can drop the constant rewinding of the past and rehearsing of the future. The only thing being asked of you right now is to stop betraying yourself for the sake of being understood by people who haven't grown at your pace. Let them misunderstand. You don't owe them your old self just to keep the peace. The real power in Leo season isn't in seeking the spotlight, it's in becoming your own source of light. And that only happens when you stop outsourcing your worth, when you stop holding your truth hostage because someone else might not approve. You were never meant to be digestible, you were meant to be real. So what does that look like now? It looks like turning down commitments that no longer excite you. It looks like moving toward the kind of life that doesn't require explaining. It looks like making peace with walking alone for a while, if it means walking in the right direction. If you're waiting for a perfect moment to begin again, it doesn't exist. But what does exist is this very moment. July 25th isn't a moment, it's a mirror, a clear, bold reflection of what happens when you stop pretending you're confused and start admitting you've known the answer for a while. You're just waiting for the courage to back it up. Courage, by the way, isn't about having it all figured out, it's about trusting yourself even when the next steps are blurry. It's about choosing the real you over the version you created just to survive. It's about recognizing that discomfort doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it just means growth. That's the real revelation. You're not lost. You're evolving. You're not broken. You're updating. You're not behind. You're in transition. And transitions don't need to be perfect. They just need to be honest. So, if your world has felt out of sync lately, if you've been pulling back from what used to excite you, if you've been craving more truth and less noise, that's not burnout, that's clarity. That's your inner compass recalibrated. And the more you listen, the less you'll need to be convinced by anything outside of you. Leo asks you to stop doubting the power of your presence, not just in the world but in your own life. You're the one you've been waiting for. You're the one who has to choose differently if you want different results. And the best part, you're ready. Not perfect, not fully polished, but honest. And that's what makes all the difference. You didn't come this far to blend back in. You came to show yourself what happens when you trust your next move. Even if it's quiet, even if it's misunderstood, even if it's nothing like what you imagined, you came to live your truth without shrinking. And it starts right now. This July new moon holds a quiet power, a kind of magnetic pull that can't be explained in usual terms. There's a subtle confidence rising in the atmosphere, one that pushes people to stop playing it safe and lean into what they really want. Not the version that sounds good, but the one that feels solid without needing anyone else's permission. When energy moves like this, it doesn't knock, it walks right in. And those who are ready don't second guess. They move. That's the window we're in right now. And it's not one to waste sitting on old chapters. On July 25th, as the new moon in Leo takes the front seat, energy won't be hiding in the background. It's bold, unapologetic, and has no interest in being subtle. This is where timing stops being random and starts making sense. Some of you will notice people reappearing out of nowhere. Others may finally catch a glimpse of something they thought was off limits. That's no coincidence. What's been waiting in the background is stepping into focus, loud, raw, and crystal clear. So drop a comment below if something finally clicked, or if the air around you feels unfamiliar in a good way. Let's hear what's changing, what's cracking open, and what's waking up. Tap the like button if your instincts have been louder than usual. Share this with someone who's been standing too still lately. They might need this more than they realize. We're moving differently now, not with force, but with truth. And truth, when it lands at the right time, doesn't ask for applause. It changes.